why he won't cut welfare. It's because he is too weak. Too weak to make a decision, too weak to face down his backbenchers and cut benefits, too weak to stand up for our national security.
What happens when the man sworn to protect a nation is too terrified to confront his own party? It's not a hypothetical question. It's the operating system of this government right now.
I believe the rights of women and girls to be protected are more important than the supposed human rights of foreign to stay here.
Human rights laws over British safety. When the legal framework shields the predator, the state has chosen a side, and it isn't yours.
People should not treat everyone the same and, quote, not being colourblind. This is a formal policy requirement for two-tier policing.
Not treating everyone the same. That isn't a slip of the tongue. It's the blueprint. Share this video right now. Hit the bell. The next vote is closer than they want you to think.
At a time that we need leadership, Mr. Speaker, we have total paralysis. It is reported that the Chancellor is only willing to find £13 billion for the dip. At the London Defence Conference last year, the Prime Minister said defence would be the central organising principle of his government. How can that be the case when he's giving the armed forces less than half of the minimum that they need?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we've already increased defence spend. We will spend £270 billion in this Parliament. What did they do on spend? They took it from 2.5% and they cut it to 2.3%. And we'll take no lectures from them.
At a time of increased global instability and tension, war in Europe and the Middle East, he is paralysed, giving the armed forces less than half of the minimum that they need. Tony Blair says cut welfare for defence. Lord Robertson, former NATO Secretary-General, he's one of them, says cut welfare for defence. We all know why he won't cut welfare. It's because he is too weak. Too weak to make a decision, too weak to face down his backbenchers and cut benefits, too weak to stand up for our national security. As the sun sets on his premiership, he is scrabbling around for a legacy. But isn't it the case, Mr. Speaker, that the real legacy will be a bloated welfare state and a weaker armed forces?
Mr. Speaker, when they were in office, they didn't reform welfare or invest in our armed services. So the very choice she puts up, they did. Defence spending went down. Welfare spending went up £88 billion overall on their watch, £33 billion under the shadow Chancellor. So, Mr. Speaker, they did neither welfare reform nor did they spend our armed forces. And every week she reminds us why the British public sent them packing.
Richard Tice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and happy birthday. We all condemn, of course, the appalling violence in Belfast last night after the horrific attack on Monday. But this Prime Minister is in denial of the rising despair across the country over his failure to stop the boats and related criminality, his failure to recognise two-tier policing, his failures over Manderson, his failures over the scourge of anti-Semitism. He's lost the confidence of the country, his own trade union members and his own very quiet backbenchers, Mr. Speaker. When will he do the right thing and when will this Prime Minister resign?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, last week we had the terrible case of Henry Novak, which they sought to exploit. Now we have a very difficult situation in Northern Ireland where families and communities are extremely frightened. What do? They try to whip up fear and division, because that's all they've got.
Nigerian illegal immigrant Gift Oladele was recently jailed for the brutal of a teenage girl. He dragged her into isolated woods, leaving her terrified, and she now has recurrent nightmares. Oladele had committed previous violent sexual offences, and the Home Office, rightly, tried to deport him. Yet an immigration judge allowed him to stay because of Oladele's human rights. He then went on to violently a teenage girl. I believe the rights of women and girls to be protected are more important than the supposed human rights of foreign to stay here. So isn't it time to leave the ECHR so all criminals like Oladele can be deported?
Well, let me start by saying I agree that that is an awful case, a truly awful case, and shows just how important it is that we do remove people who commit crimes. We've removed nearly 8,000 foreign offenders since we came to office, but the Honourable Gentleman's prescription to that problem simply doesn't match up to the solution. Leaving the ECHR will undermine returns agreements that we have around the world. Instead, our contention is that we can improve it. We know already we will legislate to narrow the domestic interpretation, which has sprawled around Article 8. He'll have seen the progress that we've made internationally around Article 3. That's the sensible case, rather than chasing a sugar high that he knows won't work. And the reason we know that to be true, Mr. Speaker, is because he didn't do it when he could.
The Police Anti-Racism Commitment, a copy of which I have here, published in March 2025 by the NPCC, asks police to reverse engineer the same arrest rates for different ethnic groups, even though offending rates are different. It expressly calls for different racial groups to be treated differently, saying, and I quote, "People should not treat everyone the same," and, quote, "not being colourblind." This is a formal policy requirement for two-tier policing. I've been raising this for over a year, and I've never had an answer, including from the Home Secretary last Tuesday. So let's try again. Does she agree that this racist and dangerous policy document should be immediately withdrawn? Yes or no?
Home Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, he knows full well that the NPCC, which is independent of government, is rightly reviewing the wording of its policing anti-racism commitment to ensure that there is no ambiguity or suggestion of differential treatment. He speaks from a sedentary position. Let me just say, I've taken more action on preventing differential treatment in the criminal justice system than he or his party ever did.
Christwell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still no clear answer. Now, moving on, we have repeatedly raised serious concerns with the government's Islamophobia definition. Now, South Wales Police has instructed staff to record anything that goes beyond, quote, legitimate discussion of Islam, even if there is no crime. This could then be disclosed on someone's DBS check. Police officers in South Wales will now have to decide what is or is not legitimate discussion of Islam. No other religion is treated that way in South Wales. This is completely wrong. Parliament has repealed rightly blasphemy laws. Criticising religion is part of free speech. So does the Home Secretary agree that this guidance is wrong and should be immediately scrapped? Let's try a simple yes or no.
Home Secretary.
Well, given that this...
Listen to the engine stall. When pressed to defend free speech against institutional censorship, the system short-circuits. Because admitting the truth means confessing, they allowed a two-tier system to become operational. The silence is the indictment.
He represents a party and a former government that didn't take any action at all, either on dealing with hate crimes, anti-Muslim hatred, or other forms of hatred. I'm not going to take any lessons from him. Let me just make very clear from this dispatch box, the police, wherever they are, South Wales or anywhere else, must always police without fear or favour, and we are all and must always be equal before the law.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're all shocked by the sheer savagery of this attack, and indeed the only bright spot in this orgy of violence was the brave intervention of local citizens whose courage we salute. But what I want to know, and what I know my constituents want to hear, is what will be done to stop the importation of an alien culture that thinks it's appropriate to try and behead someone within the United Kingdom. And on the immigration status of this person, did they hold a visa before they came to the United Kingdom? Did they obtain a visa having come illegally to the United Kingdom? I think we're entitled to know. And I do say to the Secretary of State, this House should be getting its information from the Secretary of State, not from the press conference of a Chief Constable. And I think the House is entitled to know, because there's truth and transparency, which is the greatest antidote to rising tensions. So can we have the answers?
Secretary of State.
Well, I would say I'm sorry that the honourable gentleman used the word alien culture, because what exactly is he referring to? What the British people have had enough of, or anyone from wherever they come, whatever their background, who seeks to commit violence on citizens of the United Kingdom. That is what we together are strongly opposed to. There is a proper procedure that needs to be followed in relation to the release of information. It is a live investigation. I think it is right and proper that the police lead on that, and that is why it is the police who have been in touch with the Home Office and will provide further information. And as soon as I am also able to update the House, I will do so. I am also in favour of as much information as possible being provided once process has been followed to make sure that it can be confirmed.
Julian Lewis.
Whilst I agree with virtually everything the Secretary of State said in his opening response, I really am baffled by his refusal to share with the House a piece of simple information. Did this person come legally into this country and has a 5-year visa because he came legally, or was he given this visa after entering the country illegally? This information will come out sooner or later, and what we have learnt from similar terrible incidents like this is the longer it is withheld, the worse the rumour mill goes into action.
Well, I do understand the last point that the Right Honourable Gentleman makes, but it is very important in these circumstances to be absolutely sure about the facts before they are released. And the proper vehicle for doing that is the PSNI being in touch with the Home Office, which is what has been happening this morning. As the Right Honourable Gentleman may be aware, the police originally said they believed him to be of one nationality. It may well turn out that he is in fact of another nationality, which does demonstrate the point I'm trying to put to the House, that it is important that the police lead on that so that the full facts can come out and then they can be made available to the House and to the country.
Lee Anderson.
Mr. Speaker, of course the Secretary of State will know the answer to this question. Did the assailant enter the United Kingdom as an illegal migrant stroke asylum seeker?
Well, until I am in a position, by talking to the Honourable Gentleman has asked me a question, would he do me the courtesy of allowing me to answer it? Until I am in a position to have that confirmed, I cannot confirm it to the House. As soon as I can, I will. But as I've already explained, it is the PSNI that is leading on answering the very legitimate question that he has asked.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Calm is essential after this horrific, brutal attack. We all know that. The Secretary of State has referred to further information coming out as we speak. Will he therefore commit to returning to this House later today, if possible, to update the House on the important information around the suspect and any other information?
I'm very happy to say to the Honourable Gentleman, I will report to the House in an appropriate form as soon as I am able to do so.
Obviously, we're going to come to the statement, but I have got concern. There are strong rumours that the government is going to produce its defence investment plan on Friday. That will be an utter disgrace and an utter kick in the face to the members of this House. I would say to Downing Street, government's responsibility of the Ministerial Code states major announcements should be made here. Once again, this may be speculation, and I'm sure it will be corrected, but I will be appalled if it is done on a Friday when members have been waiting so long. This is all parties, including the government benches, who has great interest in the defence plan. We all have jobs. We all have people who serve in the armed forces. So surely we must end this speculation and treat this House with the respect that members were elected here to. Once again, it seems to me we are becoming second-class citizens with the government. I don't want that to be the case, and I hope that I'm going to be proved wrong. Right.
So here is the question, and I am pinning the best comment. If the budget is the ceiling and the threats keep rising, which do you choose? A hollowed-out military or a government that lies about funding it? Leave your answer below. Hit the bell. The next vote is closer than they want you to think.